What's going on, guys? Kane here, and today I'm going to be giving you an in-depth review of the Stronger by Science program, formerly known as Average to Savage by Greg Nuckols. This program is a 21-week program that comes on a spreadsheet used to increase your size and strength. It's only $10, and with that $10, you get 6 programs and an instruction manual for each of the programs. So you have 3 of the original programs that are developed to increase your 1 rep max. So these are more strength focused. You have the SBS strength program, the SBS last set RIR, which is reps in reserve. So how close you are to failure. Then you have the SBS reps to failure. So your last set, you'd push all out, all the way to failure. You have the hypertrophy version. You have linear progression and novice hypertrophy. So those last 2 are for beginner lifters. Their strength program and hypertrophy program, respectively. Then it also comes with a program builder. So once you learn the concept of the program and you understand how it works and you've run through it a few times, you can create your own program. So I ran the reps to failure version and the hypertrophy version, so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I just took a few notes, so that's why I keep looking down. They also have lower frequency versions of all 6 of those programs. So the programs I mentioned are all full body, meaning you'll do an upper and a lower that day. So for example, day 1 would be a back squat and then an auxiliary bench exercise or shoulder exercise. So you would do like back squat, push press, and then continue on with the day. But you can do lower frequency, so then that way it would change it to an upper, lower, upper type of day. So you would do a back squat and a pause squat. Then you do bench press and close grip bench press on the same day. But I like doing it the full body just because it's higher frequency, so it's more time that I'm doing to master the lifts. These can be done 2 times a week up to 6 times a week. There's individual cells for you to mess with that, so that way you can do the perfect split right for you. Strongmen can do this. They can implement their deadlift and overhead press into the program. So if they're doing axle presses, you can easily sub axle press in for the overhead press, or car deadlifts. You can put that in here instead of regular deadlift. Bodybuilders can use it because it has the simple progression scheme. For the hypertrophy, you don't touch anything heavier than 82.5% towards the end of the program, and it's an AMRAP. So again, it's just going to be basic volume increase over time, which is good. The first 3 that I mentioned are strength programs, and those will have you testing your 1 rep max at the end. So this program has 3 7-week blocks. Again, with the 3 programs I mentioned, the strength program, the reps in reserve program, and the reps to failure version, all testing your 1 rep max. The hypertrophy only works up to a sub-max of 82.5% to test. These programs are meant to increase your squat, bench, deadlift, and overhead press. The squat and bench, you will have 2 auxiliary exercises for each. So like I gave an example earlier, for squat, you would do like pause squats and maybe safety squat bar squats. Or if you do a high bar, you would do a low bar and pause squats, something like that, tempo work, whatever. 2 auxiliary bench days. So you would do bench press 1 day. The next day, you would do close grip, and then you would do, say, Larson press or Spoto press. And then you have 1 auxiliary day for both overhead press and your deadlift. So I did push press on my overhead press auxiliary day. Then I did deadlift and then deficit deadlifts. Again, I did the reps to failure version and the hypertrophy version. So I ran the hypertrophy version first, and I only did the first 14 weeks. The hypertrophy version are 4 sets. The reps are higher, so that means you'll have less weight to use. this program, I wrote up 3 pros to it. Like I said, I only did it for the 14 weeks. I didn't do the full 21. The pros, it was great at building work capacity. I was definitely sucking wind when I first started it, especially because I based it off my real 1 rep max rather than dropping to a training max like Greg recommends. But I'm stubborn and I just chose my regular 1 rep max, and I did suffer for the first 3 or 4 weeks, but then I got adjusted to it, and I felt great. I felt like a bodybuilder doing it. That's a pro number 2, because I'm a power lifter and I focus more on just pushing the weight than anything. So I felt like a bodybuilder doing different machines, and the mind muscle connection that I got on the lifts, like because the weights were light enough, I could really feel like my glutes on squats, or really focus on my chest and my triceps while benching rather than just moving the weight. I could really focus on individual muscles. And then I kept the same accessory exercises, so like curls, extensions, lateral raises. I kept the same for the first 7 weeks until a deload, and then the next 7 weeks I changed it, so from dumbbell lateral raise to a cable lateral raise. Then I did hammer curls, and then I switched it to incline curls, stuff like that. But the spreadsheet has open cells for you to input whatever you like. The con of doing this program, and this is more me as a power lifter as to why it's a con, but I lost touch with the feel of heavy weights. So like I said, you only go up to 82.5%, and that's if you go the full program, which I did not. So once I was done with this program and jumped to the reps to failure version, I never touched anything like over 80%. So around the time I touched 80 to 85% in the reps to failure, I felt out of place. It felt odd because I didn't get to do heavy work, right? I worked up to a heavy single, an RPE 8, but that's still, working up to a heavy single is still different than doing, say, 5 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 3 of heavier weight. You kind of lose that feel for it. It's a little more intimidating once that heavier weight's in your hand. But that's my only gripe with it. Again, that's just because I'm a power lifter. I really think that for beginner lifters or even intermediate lifters, that if you run this hypertrophy program all the way through and you do your overwarm singles at your RPE 8, or even if you edit it to do triples or something like that, if you just can implement touching something heavy, roughly around 90% of your 1 rep max, maybe 1 to 2 reps throughout the program on just the main 3 lifts, you could run this program indefinitely, maintain your strength or even increase it, and still build size. So I highly recommend the hypertrophy program. Some things I'll note when I ran it, let's see, I hit some PRs on it. So I hit a 20 rep squat and a 20 rep deadlift, which absolutely sucked. It was a good pain though. I was on the ground sucking air after both of them. I definitely use straps for the deadlifts, but like the squats, I think it was 4 sets of 8 reps, and on my last set, I went for an AMRAP, obviously, and I got 20. So that's just a ton of volume that I was not used to doing. But like I said before, it's a great way to build work capacity. Also, doing the overwarm singles, I felt really good one particular day doing overhead press, and I actually got a new 1 rep max overhead press because of how the overwarm singles felt. This was later on, I think like week 12 or 13. So my overhead press went from 195 to 215, which was nuts. My measurements running the hypertrophy program, I gained 1 inch on my waist, but I also gained 10 pounds within the 14 weeks while I was bulking. I gained 1 inch on my neck, 1 inch on my arm, 1 inch on my thighs, and 1 inch on my chest. I gained 1/2 inch on my shoulders, 1/4 inch on my calf, and 1/4 inch on my forearms. So I gained some really good size in a lot of good places. I'm really happy with my results. I'm definitely going to run the hypertrophy program of this again next time I bulk. So, like I said before, I highly recommend this program. Moving on to the reps to failure version that I did it for the full 21 weeks. So the hypertrophy was 4 sets. The reps to failure is 5, and it's a higher intensity, so it's less reps, but with more weight, just so you can master the technique. The pros of the rest to failure, I put that I like the low reps, obviously, because I'm a power lifter, and you touch heavier weight and get better and master your technique in your sport. Like I said, for powerlifting is my sport, so I can master my technique. I'm comfortable with it. I still did the overarm singles with it too. Number 2 pro, it was not super fatiguing for the most part. Some days I didn't do the overarm single. I just basically clocked in, did the work on the spreadsheet, clocked out. But other days, I did the overwarm single, and then I tried to go balls to the wall on my last set, the reps to failure version, and I went to absolute failure. So that could be pretty fatiguing. So that can also be a con. But for the most part, it's not super fatiguing because it's lower reps, just higher intensity, and you don't really feel fatigued unless you do, like I said, the overarm single, and you just go insanely nuts on the reps to failure version, or the last set reps to failure, or when you're towards the end of the program where you start to peak, which if you do the deload week or the deload few days before you test your 1 rep maxes in week 21 or week 22, whenever you decide to test, then you should be all right. That leads to number 3, which is you get stronger without beating yourself up. For the hypertrophy version, I felt like I was completely spent every day that I left the gym, literally every single day. I did the 5-day version, full body, for both the reps to failure and the hypertrophy. And when I did the hypertrophy, I was exhausted and spent every time I left the gym. It was very demanding. The reps to failure version, I felt, yeah, I did work, but most of the time, I'm talking like 80 to 85% of the time on the program, I felt good. I wasn't completely dead afterwards. I was still able to go on about my day and do my physically demanding job. So I really liked that about it. Again, the con that I had with it is that it can be fatiguing if you just go to balls to the wall, and having accumulated fatigue with heavy weights is very challenging, and it's harder to conquer those heavier weights rather than the hypertrophy version where you're fatigued but the weight's not that heavy to where you can still rep it out. The pros for the overall program, you get stronger, you gain size. It's a good program. You can see the progression. You can do, your last set AMRAP, so you have something to push for. Beat yesterday's or last week's plus, by +1 or something like that. So it's got a lot of bonuses. The only cons is that it's boring. So I did the 5 times a week. I did Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. It got really boring because I was squatting and doing some kind of shoulder press, whether that be push press or the dumbbell overhead press on the hypertrophy program, every single Sunday, and it was just the monotony got me a little bit. So it can be very boring, but strength training in general can be pretty boring. Real quick, I just want to go over the pros of the rest to failure version. So I bulked up during the hypertrophy program, and then I cut weight for summer during the reps to failure version. I lost 12 pounds. I lost 12 pounds doing this the whole 21 weeks. My squat roughly stayed the same. On my testing day, my 1 rep max previously to this program was 505, and by the end of the program, my estimated 1 rep max was 520. So I tried 500, got it, and I tried 515, but I was unable to stand all the way back up with it. I got stuck midway. So I did not PR on squat. I did set a few squat like AMRAP PRs. Same thing with bench. I set a few, but my bench actually dropped, which is inevitable when I drop weight. I've experienced that before. My bench previous was 360. I hit 340 getting ready to test, and I jumped from 340 to 350, and I failed halfway up. So that really bummed me out. And my estimated 1 rep max was 366. So I fell fairly short of that as well. My deadlift, however, this program changed my deadlift, and I was ecstatic. So prior to this program, my 1 rep max was 565. I felt pretty beat up leading into this, but on week 19, so not even my testing week, I didn't do deadlift on testing week because of this, but on week 19, in the morning before work, which is when I usually work out, I tried to do an overwarm single, and I only got to 515, which was less than the working weight for the day. But I went to work. Again, I work a physically demanding job. I lift 120-pound refrigerators and 80-pound recliners or theater seating, whatever you want to say, into RVs. So my job is pretty physically demanding, so I felt pretty spent. But this deadlift, poor performance of my deadlift, I should say, from that day really stuck with me. So I went home and I worked up, and I did 545, so 20 pounds less than my 1 rep max previously. I did that for 5 singles, not touch and go, actually reset 5 singles or 5 reps. And then I just said, screw it, I'm going to go for a PR, and I got 605 pounds. So this helped me take my 565-pound deadlift all the way to 605, which is insane. A 40-pound increase. Like I said, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it, and I absolutely love the reps to failure version. That being said, I'm definitely going to run this again. Like I said, I might just do the program builder and do my main lifts. The main 4 I'll do in the reps to failure version, so that way I'm still touching the higher percentages for a squat, bench, and deadlift, and may switch out the overhead press for another bench day. And then my auxiliary lifts, I'll switch to hypertrophy program, and it'll create kind of like a power building program, if you will. And yeah, I plan to run something like that in the future and let you guys know. But anyways, this has been a long review. It's almost 18 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helped some of you. I got a lot of positive feedback from my Jeff Nippard review, so hopefully this helps you guys out, maybe steers you one way or the other on whether or not if you want to run this program. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.